Back in April, it looked like it was a foregone conclusion that the Chicago Bulls were going to sign DeMar DeRozan. But a new report from Chris Haynes has come out that says that the Chicago Bulls are, in fact, not necessarily prioritizing DeMar DeRozan. We're going to be talking about what this means for the Chicago Bulls and what this could do for the team. This is Rico Greenhowe, and this is another episode of Bulls Digest. And before we jump into it, I want to let you know that 77.9% of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls. Without further ado, let's jump into the hot topic of the day, which is, will DeMar DeRozan be back with the Bulls? All right, guys. So, look, I must say, look, when it first broke that the Bulls were looking to go ahead and re-sign him, I thought that there was a high likelihood that he would be back. I did think it was not necessarily strange, but I thought that it was interesting that they were already arguing a little bit over the years, and we shouldn't say arguing, but they were debating, I think, in the contract where DeMar DeRozan wanted some more years. The team wanted to do, just a 2-year option, and that's what's reported out there. And so, right then and there, I felt like, okay, the Bulls are certainly looking to think a little bit more of a long-term deal here for the team, not necessarily for DeMar DeRozan when they're not looking to come off the 2-year deal. But I thought that this was a bit telling with what Chris Haynes had to say. And so for today's pieces, we're going to break into what Chris Haynes had to say. We're also going to break into what AK had to say in a press conference shortly after drafting Montas Bazelis. And I think that both actually give us a little bit more as to what they want to possibly do with DeMar DeRozan, and also to what this team is going to look like, guys. And so first, let's go ahead and bring up what Chris Haynes had to say. This is one of the articles that I took a look at here. Bulls not discussing contract amid Zach Lavine trade rumors. And this is what Chris Haynes had to say. He was on his podcast. You can find Chris Haynes generally on TNT on the sidelines, and then also to the Bleacher Report. But he's saying, look, at this point right now, Chicago and DeRozan can work out an extension. But, he said, I'm told there's no talks at this moment on an extension. The Bulls are trying to find a spot for Zach Lavine, and that's Mark Stein to go along with him. And he's saying, look, Lavine is currently signed for the 2 more seasons, which we do know, with the option through 2027. DeRozan obviously is hitting free agency now, but he's saying, I'm not saying the Bulls are not going to take care of DeMar. I'm just saying that the order in which they're doing so leads a lot of speculations. All right. And this is what Chris Haynes had to say here. And so, look, I think that as time has dragged along, I think that certainly, yes, it does lead us to a lot of speculation. And the one thing that I said, and I've said it a couple times when we brought up Will Gottlieb and his article that he put on CHGO about possibly rebuilding this roster, he said one of the main domino pieces to make sure that we have money to sign players and such would be to move away from Zach Lavine. So I still think that Zach Lavine, yes, he is one of the main domino pieces here to figure out exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to allocate some funds, and how we're going to build this thing out. So I think that they're right on par. I just think that the Chicago Bulls, as a franchise, I thought that they were really hesitant with the Caruso deal, and then something, maybe it's us, like once we found out that Caruso was not moved for even better deals, I think that might have been a situation where we were pretty much like, yo, what are you trying to do here? And I think that maybe lit a fire under the franchise, and then they finally moved Caruso. But I think with Lavine, they thought that they were going to get more than what they are getting back. And I think that one of the things that we're going to find out with AK is it looks like he's erring on the side of patience, but he is very aware of time and what is going to have to happen here, guys. So, I'm thinking more and more every day, man, that DeMar DeRozan is probably not going to be a Chicago Bull. I'm just like, okay, is he going to walk? Which I have no problem with him going out there and walking. It just means that he's not going to probably get the amount of money that he would get with us. Totally understandable there. Or are we going to work together in the sense that we find a sign and trade situation where he can possibly get into a winning situation and we as a franchise win a little bit by getting some pieces back? I would love to see that happen. I think that DeMar DeRozan deserves to play for a winner. And I will say this, I don't think that nothing that happened with the Chicago Bulls and the current situation that we're in, it has nothing to do with the way DeMar DeRozan showed up every day. In fact, if I had a basketball team, and I've said this before, I would absolutely want DeMar DeRozan on my team. I feel like he is going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't care what anybody says. The numbers show that. And if you go back to when he first came to us, he said, look, the key piece for us is we're going to have to stay healthy. He kept his end of the bargain up, guys. It was Zach Lavine and the others that did not. So I will put that out there. But anyway, great piece right there from Chris Haynes. And that kind of leads us into the next piece of information, guys. And that is going into what Artorias had to say. And you can find this particular one on Chicago Sports. And it is talking about DeMar DeRozan's future will help finalize this particular situation in the way the team is going to go. But bringing it up, guys, he says here, look, when asked about it, he wanted to reiterate, as I said before, we're going to look at everything. Everything is on the table. And notice at the top, he said he would not bite on whether the organization is headed towards a youth movement. All right. Now, look, when we last talked about this, we talked about him saying, yes, they want to go out and they want to re-sign him. But at this point in time, it looks like shopping Lavine is going to be the main piece before we go ahead and we do something with DeMar DeRozan. And one of the things that I found interesting about this is, I didn't put it up, but I wanted to talk about it. At the end of this article, they asked AK, they said, look, you got Buzelis at 11. Well, what are you thinking and how are you feeling? And he said, look, one, I had to be patient, all right? Which leads me to believe all these trade speculations and stuff like that, he's hearing it, but he just felt that he could get his guy, all right? Two, he said, look, Buzelis played against grown men, didn't he? So he's asking the media, right? He played against grown men, didn't he? Then he goes, look, they lost a lot of games there. He came from a winning program. He has a lot to work on, and we're excited for that. Key piece, he came from a winning situation in high school. I'm sure he won just about everything. He got to the Ignite, and they got beat up on. That right there, in my opinion, one, he's saying that physically, the fact that he played against grown men and he handled his own, one, I think he's saying, okay, he's ready for the challenge. But two, he's saying they got beat up on. That team, they took a lot of L's. I think that AK is saying that if we are going into a rebuild, this is the type of guy that I believe in, not just physically, but mentally he's up for the challenge, because we could take some L's in order to get up there to where we need to go. So that right there, in the sense to me, is telling me that I don't believe that DeMar DeRozan is going to want to sign up for that. I don't think that since DeMar DeRozan entered the league with Toronto, I don't think that losing has ever been anywhere on his list in the goal sheet. I don't ever think that that's what he's thinking. I don't think that DeMar DeRozan is going to just go ahead and say, as much as the money maybe makes sense, I'm just going to go with the comfort. I don't see that with DeMar DeRozan. He is a competitor, right? He is a guy that literally I thought should have won the Clutch Player of the Year award, guys. He was a huge piece for us down the stretch. There's a lot of games that we would not have won had he not kind of carried us down the stretch, guys. He's a winner. He is. And I'm not saying that we're not going to win. But let's be honest, guys. We are not going to be in championship contention anytime soon right now. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen within the next 4 or 5 years. That can happen, right? But unless we are going to get a Joel Embiid, unless we're going to get the Joker over there, unless we're going to get Anthony Edwards, unless we're getting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's not happening, right? And on top of that, those teams or players that I mentioned, their teams, they built themselves up, right? Think about what OKC is doing. They are building themselves up with the amount of talent that they got in the draft, the strategical free agents that they have signed. Look at what they did by letting go of players before. It was like, dude, you're letting go of James Harden? You're letting go of Serge Ibaka? Yes, they let go of players at their highest value, which is what the Chicago Bulls have failed to do. Look at what Denver's done, building around Jamal Murray and the Joker, right? Even Philadelphia, even though they haven't won necessarily anything, but they're right there. But they built around pieces, and that's what the Chicago Bulls are going to look to do, guys. And so with that being said, guys, do you think that the Chicago Bulls are headed to a full rebuild, which does not include DeMar DeRozan? Do you think we're headed to a soft rebuild and a retool that does include DeMar DeRozan's for 2 seasons? And what do you think about AK's recent comments? Do you think that he is telling us that, yes, we are getting ready to start the youth movement, get ready for the rebuild? This is what you wanted, a reset, guys. So even though we don't know what we're doing and it looks like we're getting ready to hit that patented miracle, I'm still saying go Bulls, guys. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, peace, peace.